And we are talking all about the Medway Queen and the Preservation Society as well at the moment. Brian, what happened after the war?
Well, she was repaired, and it was quietly. She'd ended the war quite quietly. She was a trainee ship. She went all the way up to Scotland, really, doing training and on the Tyne, and trained personnel to actually go out to be on minesweepers. After the war, well, that's where it all started happening. She come back to her usual run on the Medway, and she did that to 1963. And of course, thinking back of all those years, many people went on it as children, many went on it with their girlfriends, many went on it as mothers and fathers, and even many went on over the years as grandparents. But now she was getting towards the end of her line. 1963, she was retired, and she was put up for sale, and she went up to the London docks. Look, in a very sad and sorry state, there she was, who wanted to buy a paddle steamer. Finally, and I suppose in the meantime she was put up, and some Belgian breakers decided to buy her and take her to Belgium and just tear her apart. This hit the national papers, the Daily Mail. Daily Mail took it up and said that this ship must not be scrapped. It's got such a history with it. And two business people took it down to the Isle of Wight, and for 10 years she was the Isle of Wight nightclub. Now, of course, many of you people will remember licensing laws. You could drink until 10:30, 11 o'clock, but of course after that you could go to Newport on the Isle of Wight and go on the Medway Queen nightclub and drink till 3 o'clock in the morning, because that was a different licence in there. And once again, we've been to the Isle of Wight, and many people have taken and met their future partners, and they come and visit us when we do the fetes and fairs, and the different stories come out, where it was a disco on the lower decks. You could have a meal on the middle deck and drink beer and look at the sun at the table, look at the moon on the top deck. So she was very well welcome on the Isle of Wight, but like everything else, she outgrew her use, and she was put out into the river, and another ship was bought and put in her place. Unfortunately, she drew into disrepair, and she was there for many years, and people used to go along the riverbank, scratch their head and say, oh dear, what we're going to do with this ship, what we're going to do with it, because no one really wanted it. And then in the early 80s, some people from Gravesend went down and was trying to keep her going, trying to float her. She was taking in water in a very sorry state. And they thought, well, our challenge, because she's on the Isle of Wight, our challenge is to get it back to the Medway where she belongs. And the idea was to get it back to the Medway and Chatham Dockyard, for where she could be fully repaired. And they spent a lot of time and a lot of money, and they got her onto a pontoon, and they had it towed back to Chatham, and a lot of people once again were on the riverbanks waving to her, well done Medway Queen, here she comes, you know, good old girl. But when she got back to the dockyard had closed a year before. So they'd run out of money. They tied it up on the dockyard wall, and hopefully someone would take over. It was there for many years, and in 1985, Marshall Vine, a local school teacher, saw it, and he just put a notice saying, here is the Medway Queen, anybody interested in helping her, please phone this number. And of course they got a few people together, but in this date she was now taking in water. Every time the water come in, the mud come in, and they had to have working parties over the weekend and to dig out the mud. And of course the following week when they went down, the mud was back again, and they was digging the same mud out. They was advertising for somewhere to take it to, and finally they got a chap at Damhead Creek at Who said, yes, you can come over here if you can make it. So they really got together, and the insurance would insure them if they could float her for 2 days. They did this. There she was. This poor old thing was straddled there, and they cleared all the mud out, and she floated for 2 days, and with a great amount of ceremony. And it took 8 hours to get down from the dockyard down and up to Damhead Creek, for where she was for the next 20 years. They worked hard at her. They got a little hamlet there, workshops, paint shops, mess rooms,
Yep.
and they set about restoring it.
What is happening now?
What is happening now? Right, for those 20 years we needed money. I mean, we was repairing the ship for preservation, like on a temporary basis. It looked nice, but underneath was a rust as thin as your fingernail. And we applied for, in 1997 we applied for a lottery grant, which was promptly refused. In 2002 we applied for another lottery grant, and although we had done everything professionally, like feasibility studies, risk assessments, all the magic words that have come in nowadays, we did it correctly. All the jobs were done professionally, and we still got refused. Now, to give you an idea of the interest of the Medway Queen, this refusal actually met the Houses of Parliament, and there was a speech in the Houses of Parliament, and the claim officer for the Heritage Lottery Fund was asked to attend, and he said, "Oh, I do feel we could help the Medway Queen." 2006, when things were really getting desperate, and I mean desperate, we survived a storm, but it caused so much wreck and ruin on it. The water was just coming in and flowing out, and we thought, quite honestly, we've lost the battle. We've lost the battle. And they said, "Oh, we're going to come down to see you." And we just resigned to the fact, here we are, here's the ship, all the holes in it. Well, that's why we want the money for, and I'm sorry, but that's it. Following week we got a phone call. "Oh, Heritage Lottery Fund here, we've allotted you £1.8 million. Well, we nearly fell through the floor. There was women in our group that was crying their eyes out, because this is what we've been looking for years. Now, of course, since then we've had to go through all kinds of paperwork, and because the lottery wanted to make the ship into a fully restored ship, as you will remember it, or many of our listeners will remember. And of course this is to be a riveted ship, which presented another problem, because riveting is an old skill.
Right.
And so this would be the first fully riveted ship for 50 years. So where on earth do you find a shipyard could rivet a ship? Anyhow, because it's the lottery money, they put the tender out, and we found one, and where she is now is down at Bristol, or most of her. We had a feasibility study on what was usable, and 60% of the ship is actually usable. I'll go into all the details. There's 8,000 feet of decking. There is 17 portholes, bollards, the bridge, the funnel, all kinds of things that are ready to go on the new ship, because Albion Dockyard at Bristol have got to rebuild the ship up to the main deck. But 60% of the ship will be original. People will be able to go on it and remember and look at those engines that they used to stand there and watch revolving, and as they used to go down the Medway or across the Southend, and it will be as you remember.
We are joined with Brian Goodhew here at the Monday Night Community Show, and we are talking all about the Medway Queen and the Medway Queen Preservation Society.